Once upon a time, in a very big city called Los Angeles, there was a young man who walked into a crowded church. He saw a girl across the room, and there were lots of people there, but somehow he only noticed her. Maybe it was her long dark hair, maybe it was that incredible smile, but whatever it was, just for a moment, the rest of the room seemed to disappear. Her name was Betty, and the young man was me. A few weeks later, Betty came to one of my parties. I had this huge apartment in Country Club Park. It was perfect for hosting parties. I was still pretty new, so throwing parties was a way of making friends, and apparently finding a wife, but I didn't know that at the time. It's kind of funny that the party I met Betty was the last party I hosted. Famously, I kept a sign-up sheet by the door. Officially is so I could make friends, stay in touch, invite people to the next party. Unofficially, it was a great way to find pretty girls' phone numbers. Then there was dancing. Now, in this fairy tale, the young man was not exactly Prince Charming on the dance floor, but he made out with enthusiasm, lots of enthusiasm. Enough enthusiasm, apparently, that he worked up quite a sweat. And then Betty did something I've never forgotten. She reached up and wiped the sweat from my forehead with her hand, and then wiped her hand on her own pants like it was nothing. Such a tiny thing, but somehow it was not tiny at all. Eventually, I worked up the courage to ask her on a real date. I had a great plan: the beach, rollerblading, ocean air, sunshine. What could go wrong? Well, she canceled. And I had a rule back then: if I ask someone out and they back away, don't chase them. So I figured that was that. I still had my famous list of phone number. Maybe I'd have to call someone else. But then the phone rang. It was Betty. She said, "John, I don't want you to think I didn't want to see you, but I already had plans. I promised my friends. But if you'd like to come, we'd love to have you." And suddenly, our story was not over after all. So I went. Honest, I didn't care where, I just wanted to see Betty again. At the party, there were probably 15 people, all crowded together, talking, laughing, watching movies. Then Betty let me in and introduced me, and someone shouted, "Arroz?" Rice. I had absolutely no idea what was going on, what they even meant. Then I learned. The rice that they were talking about is the rice they throw at a newly married couple. Apparently, Betty's friends had already decided something we hadn't quite figured out yet. And after that, every time I showed up, arroz, rice, became the chant, the joke, the running joke, and eventually, maybe a little bit of prophecy. Because from then on, Betty and I were almost inseparable. Just two young people trying to figure out life, but somehow along the way, without really planning it, we found each other. I first saw you in January. By February, there was us. And by July, there was a wedding. Turns out Betty's friends might have known something after all. Then came Michael, then came Brian, then Danny, and before he knew it, our little story for two had become a family of 5. Now this is the part where the fairy tale usually says, "and they lived happily ever after." But everyone knows who's actually been married that the real story has just begun. There were children to raise, bills to pay, jobs to find, jobs to lose. There was church, work, school, arguments, apologies, laughter, tears, and a whole lot of learning and growing up. One day I came home after losing my job. I was scared. I felt like I'd failed, and I didn't know how I was going to tell Betty. But when I finally did, she didn't yell, she didn't blame me, she hugged me. Then she disappeared into the bedroom, and a little while later she came back with a plan. "We have this much, these bills are paid, we can do this, we're gonna be okay." And somehow when Betty said we're going to be okay, I believed her. That was Betty. Again and again, that was Betty. The years kept coming, and not all of them were easy. There was illness, fear, disappointment. There were times when we got so busy surviving life that we forgot we were supposed to be facing it together. But every once in a while, life reminded us. Because when things became truly frightening, we still reached for each other. When there weren't words big enough for what our family was going through, we held each other and we cried. And then one strange night, somewhere between faith and doubt, Betty woke up with tears in her eyes, and she told me, God is real. And of all the people that she could have wanted by her side in that moment, she wanted me. Maybe that's what happily ever after really means. It doesn't mean you never get lost, doesn't mean you never hurt each other, and it certainly doesn't mean you never get distracted, because life is full of distractions. Work, church, children, money, illness, fear, and 1,000 little things that can quietly fill the space between the two of us. Maybe happily ever after means something else. Maybe it means that one day, after all those years, you look across the distance that life is put between you, and suddenly you see that person again. I see the same smile, the long dark hair. I see the girl who wiped the sweat from my forehead. I see the woman who looked at me when I was afraid and said, we're going to be okay. And I see the person whom, in some of the happiest and saddest moments of our lives, still reached for me. So maybe our story isn't finished. Maybe there's still another chapter, a chapter where I get to court you again, notice you again, discover you again, and maybe fall in love with you all over again. Once upon a time, a young man walked into a crowded room in LA, and he saw a girl smile. He had no idea where that smile would lead him. No idea about the wedding, or the 3 boys, or the jobs, or the houses, or the laughter, or the tears, or of all the years that would come between that first moment and this one. But somewhere near the beginning of a room full of friends looked at the two of them and yelled, arroz, rice. They thought they were making a joke. Maybe they were. But all these years later, I think they were right. And if I got to start this whole story over again, I'd look across that crowded room, I'd see you smile, and I'd still choose you.